All right, so welcome everyone. Rachel and I are so excited that you are joining the call today and really being open to learning. We really would love to share our knowledge and experience with this revolutionary phototherapy patch that we were introduced to just over 4 months ago. I am Beth Blackmore, a health and empowerment coach. I started my own health journey over 5 years ago, changing my food choices, my lifestyle habits. I lost 60 pounds in the process. And that was really the beginning of my conscious awakening. I ended up leaving my government career due to the unjust mandates to pursue my passion in helping people find their own inner power. I'm a former conformist. I am constantly now learning and unlearning and relearning, open to new information and embracing change. Most recently, I started applying Rachel's teachings and guidance around quantum biology, circadian rhythm, really harnessing the power of light. So, waking up with the sun, eating within an hour of waking. And I feel that embracing the power of light is this next phase of my evolution, of my health journey. So, when Rachel mentioned that she was curious about learning more about this phototherapy patch, I knew that I needed to give it the proper attention. I knew that Rachel, as an MD, would be able to ask all the smart questions, understand the technology behind the patch. And so I invited Rachel on a call with Diane Hunt, who is on the Zoom today. And we were both blown away with the information you're about to hear about the company Lifewave, the inventor behind it, and the life-changing testimonials. As coaches, as healers, as light workers in this world of deceit and corruption, we know that people could really benefit from this healing modality by helping people to support the body to heal and to do what it does best, which is heal. So we pretty much signed up on the spot. We put our first order in and we did what any good daughter would do. We patched our moms. My mom had been experiencing knee pain and discomfort for many years. And within a few days of using this patch, my mom's knee pain had diminished significantly. The physiotherapist she was seeing twice a week noticed more mobility, less inflammation. She wanted to know what she was using, what she was doing differently, what supplements she was taking. And she said she was using this light patch that her daughter put on her. My mom, who is 77 years old, also noticed increased energy, more mobility, going for walks, gardening, swimming. She began sleeping better, better quality of sleep, deeper sleep. I've also noticed amazing sleep, better quality of sleep, sleeping through the night, vivid dreams, which is honestly unheard of for me. What I also noticed was this lower back pain and compression issue, especially when I was walking or standing for longer periods. And this was alleviated within a week or so just by using this patch. And what fires me up is that I know the best is yet to come. My body is healing and repairing and age reversing, as you will soon discover. And I'm excited about the big, thick mane of hair that is coming after some significant hair loss over the last couple of years. So before we dive into the formal part of the presentation, I'd love to invite my friend, Rachel. She's a health practitioner, former MD. She's helping me co-host today. I'd love for her to introduce herself and share her inspiring story.
Hi, thanks, Beth. And just thank you, everybody, for taking the time and spending it with us, because time is our most precious commodity these days. So I just want to take the time to thank you for that. So for myself, I have been practicing anesthesia, practicing as an anesthesiologist for 20 years in Canada, 30 years in complete kind of in the healthcare system until 2021, when I left my career due to the mandates. I honestly didn't think that I would be gone for too long, but as it stands, it's been now 3 years. And in the time, because I am a voracious learner, and because of everything that was happening in the world, I started going down a bunch of different rabbit holes, learning everything that I could, realizing that the foundation of what I was taught in my mainstream medical career started to crumble. And it was a bit disconcerting for me, but because I have a curious mind, I was wanting to learn exactly what holes there were and what could be filled in. And what I started to learn was I came across several pioneering scientists and physicians, and one of them, namely Dr. Jack Kruse, who's a neurosurgeon out of the United States. And he started talking about things that made me curious and were very interesting and had to do with how our body actually works. And what we're taught in medicine is mostly about the physical nature of our body, as well as the biochemical nature, which ties to the pharmaceutical industry, right? There's the pills side of medicine, and then surgery as far as the physical body. But what he was talking about was light and the upstream signal to how our body works coming from the light in our environment. We evolved under natural light, and it's only been since the late 1800s that we've introduced artificial light with the electric light bulb. And so that started me down a whole bunch of paths, leading me to learning about mitochondria in our body, which some people may have heard of before. Kind of think of it as the powerhouses, the kind of little engines in our bodies that produce our energy. And that led me also to learning about red light panels. And for me, red light panels were kind of the panacea for alleviating symptoms and helping people. And then I came across these patches. They went across my purview. I didn't pay too much attention. I thought they had to do with red light, similar to a red light panel. And it wasn't until a year and a half later, so it was a year and a half until I actually started to dive into this. And luckily, Beth introduced me to Diane. Diane has had an extensive career in the cardiac surgical suite in the hospital, as well as the electrophysiology suite, which she can talk to later. But knowing she knew what I knew in medicine and learning from her what she had seen in the last year and a half of being with Lifewave was unlike anything either of us had seen in our medical careers. I had to dive in because it was very timely. My mom was getting sicker. My mom has a whole host of issues. She's in her early 80s. And the biggest one was her heart. And so it was very timely to come across Diane because my mom was getting potentially worked up for heart surgery. And I would do anything to avoid, ironically, working in the system for 30 years, seeing everything there, experiencing that. Of utmost priority for me was never to have to access that system because of what I had seen. And so I didn't want my mom to have to go through it. And so because of what I learned and what you'll learn from Beth shortly and myself about these patches, it was a no-brainer to start my mom on them. And so I will go in a little later to what's happened with my mom, but basically the issues with my mom were her heart was failing. She has atrial fibrillation, which is a rhythm disturbance, sleep apnea, which she uses a CPAP machine for. She's metabolically unhealthy, overweight, and she had a low thyroid. And so just a little snippet, within a few weeks, she started to see changes, not just subjectively by what she was feeling, but objectively by some lab tests that she actually got back. So that was really the introduction into how I got into these patches. And I started sharing immediately because I understood the science behind them. Because for me, I really have to understand how something works before I can endorse it. And I just started seeing miracles in people around me very quickly. So that was the start of my journey with these patches. Thanks, Beth.
Hey, thank you so much, Rachel. So I am now sharing my screen and I'm hoping you're able to see it. If you can give me a thumbs up. Yep. Okay, perfect. All right. So who is ready to learn how to activate their own healing with the power of the patch? Well, some of us on this call have already experienced the life-changing benefits of this patch, and you'll hear some of those testimonials a little bit later. What makes this patch so unique is that it activates your body's natural healing abilities by harnessing your own light. It empowers your body to do what it is designed to do, which is heal. So I want to say at the outset that while you're going to hear some fascinating information today, it's important to note that what we are discussing is not meant to diagnose, treat, cure, prevent any disease or medical condition. This is not a medical device that requires FDA approval. What we're sharing is a wellness technology product. And so what we're going to be talking about today will focus on general wellness, addressing symptoms and experiences in our body rather than specific diseases. So talking about addressing symptoms and what ails you. Are you feeling older and frustrated that your body and mind aren't functioning like they used to? Does it feel like you've hit a wall, that it's all downhill from here? Low energy, inflammation, mobility issues, are they stopping you from living your best life? So imagine for a second, if you could feel more energized, keep up with the kids, with the grandkids, think clearly, stay focused without feeling mentally drained, move freely without pain, and enjoy physical activities with ease. Or maybe you want to level up your physical game and build lean, strong muscles and bones. How about enjoying a calmer, more balanced life without feeling stressed and revved up all the time? Deep, solid sleep, where you wake up in the same position that you fell asleep in. And on top of all of that, who wouldn't want to age gracefully? Regrow your hair, your natural hair color, reclaim smoother, more youthful skin, maybe no more reading glasses. Imagine if you could reverse the aging process. So it's important to acknowledge how we got here and understand the aging process, especially when our lives are compounded by the modern lifestyle, the constant exposures to toxins, the chemicals in our food, air, water, even radiation from our devices. Over time, this leads to cellular dysfunction, making it harder for our bodies to repair, to regenerate. So saying all this, stem cells are the body's repair mechanism. They are the system replacing old damaged cells. They act as the baby cells that replace the old dying cells. They become your heart cells, your skin cells, even your brain cells. But unfortunately, as we age, our stem cells mutate. They go dormant, causing the wrinkles, the gray hair, the body aches, the organ challenges, and impacts our overall health and well-being. By the age of 30, 60% of our healthy stem cells have already gone dormant. By 60, a staggering 90% of these crucial cells are inactive. So now, full disclosure, 4 months ago, I really didn't understand the value or how vital stem cells are. I had heard of stem cell therapy, them being, risky, invasive treatments, expensive with only about 50% effectiveness. People spend thousands on red and blue light saunas for the regenerative effects, often paying upwards of 10 grand. This is where stem cell regeneration becomes exciting and why the phototherapy patch is such a powerful option. So while many regenerative treatments aren't accessible for most people, Lifewave offers an affordable, non-invasive alternative to reactivate dormant stem cells through phototherapy. So activating healing with light or phototherapy is nothing new. It's been around since the dawn of time. We all know that the sun is a form of phototherapy, signaling our bodies to make vital vitamin D. But photobiomodulation is a type of light therapy that uses specific wavelengths of light to stimulate cells, boosting energy production and promoting healing. This process enhances cellular function, reduces inflammation, improves blood flow, and supports tissue repair. But best of all, it's non-invasive and offers a natural way to improve overall health. So now, what if I told you there was a product, one that uses this very technology to reflect your body's own infrared light to stimulate the specific naturally occurring copper peptide? Well, that's exactly what the X39 patch does, using our own body's infrared light to stimulate the production of GHKCU peptide. This peptide is known as the holy grail of age reversal. So this X39 patch, which happens to be the inventor David Schmidt's 39th invention, it naturally increases the production of GHKCU in the body, which is a powerful peptide. It's naturally found in our body. It's a universal copper peptide that functions in many areas of our body. So how do we know the incredible benefits of this specific copper peptide? Well, thanks to Laurent Picard. He is a PhD researcher who first isolated it back in 1973. There's 50 years of research to back it up, and you can access these studies on pubmed.gov. This is an online repository of scientific research. So we know that GHKCU does some amazing things. It stimulates blood vessel and nerve outgrowth. It boosts collagen and elastin production. It has multiple anti-inflammatory, anti-anxiety, anti-pain, and even anti-cancer properties. It's capable of resetting over 4,000 genes in our genome. So essentially resetting and repairing DNA to a younger, healthier state. But here's the clincher. The GHKCU reactivates dormant stem cells, effectively reversing the aging process. So how does this little patch increase GHKCU? Because there's nothing in the patch. We're going to get to that in a minute. But now that you understand the power of the peptide, let me introduce you to the power of the patch. So Lifewave X39 is a small wearable phototherapy patch about the size of a quarter in Canada. designed to enhance energy, strength, wellness, and athletic performance, developed by David Schmidt, the founder of Lifewave. This unique and patented product represents cutting-edge regenerative technology. The X39 patch, it operates through that photobiomodulation, using your body's own infrared heat, that light, to activate a crystallized lattice of organic materials in the patch that includes amino acids, sugar, water, oxygen, and salt. This lattice reflects specific light frequencies back into the body, signaling biological changes at the cellular level and targeting the root causes of imbalances and cellular dysfunction. The patches are latex-free, non-transdermal. They contain no drugs or chemicals or stimulants, making them safe to use without interfering with any medications you might be on. So there's no contraindications because nothing is being absorbed into your skin. So in essence, the X39 patch is an exciting, affordable tool for overall health and wellness, like an advanced form of infrared therapy. So now I'm going to turn it over to our resident doctor and light therapy expert, Rachel, who will explain the remarkable rejuvenating and healing benefits the X39 has to offer.
Thank you, Beth. I want to just go into a little more depth on some things that Beth touched on here. She mentioned about photobiomodulation. And for those who have not heard of that before, it may seem like it's something that's alternative and not scientifically proven. But if you go into PubMed, which Beth had just mentioned earlier about GHKCU, and you type in photobiomodulation, you will see there are over 6,000 studies on photobiomodulation. So it is not some esoteric kind of woo-woo concept. It's a real thing that has been scientifically proven. The other thing that Beth also touched on was this light that we emit. And so the patch uses our own light. Again, this is something that most people don't know, and most doctors actually still don't know, that we produce our own light. We actually produce a form of infrared light, and that is made within our mitochondria. It's a known scientific fact that we produce infrared light within our mitochondria. We also produce a type of ultraviolet light, but that's not what we're talking about here. And just so that you can kind of, I know I'm explaining this because I know for myself, a lot of times it's easier to, when there's something that tangible that you can hold on to, it's easier to understand kind of when we move on with topics. But this infrared light, you can imagine, we don't see it, right? We hear about infrared light, but we don't see it. But you can imagine most of the people have probably seen in movies, right? It is in the military as well, but the night vision goggles, we actually see that infrared heat being emitted from someone that we don't see during the day, and we can't see with our normal eyes, or not our normal eyes, you know what I mean? Normally with our eyes. So this infrared heat is also a form of non-visible light. So it is light, even though we consider it heat. So just to kind of clarify that. And the other thing is, how can light actually cause changes in our body? We're talking about this light causing an increase in this specific copper peptide. So light, most of us understand, if we go out into the sun, we're told, go out for 20 minutes, get some ultraviolet B light on our skin, and that will be enough to produce vitamin D. Now that's sort of debatable as well, but we know that we need that ultraviolet B light to increase and make vitamin D. We also know when we go out into the sun that we can get a suntan. So that suntan is actually from light signaling to special cells in our skin to make melanin, which is the pigment where we see the skin turn and get a tan. So that's another way we know that light actually causes changes in the body. Another one that we often see in medicine is when babies are born jaundice. So they might have this yellow, not all of them, but some of them might have this yellow tint to them. It has to do with a buildup of a specific chemical. And what we do in medicine is actually use a specific light to help break down and for the baby to be able to remove that chemical. So that is just some kind of regular everyday examples of how light actually causes changes in our body. So with this particular patch, the changes that Beth mentioned was that that's special, and it really is special, GHKCU copper peptide. So what that can do, again, because of the regulation of over 4,000 genes that Beth has mentioned, it can increase a bunch of proteins that are made and reduce others, which help with now, on the slide here, reducing inflammation, which can help with reducing pain as well. It can improve strength, stamina, and energy levels. That was one of the incentives that I got my kids on them for. It improves muscle and bone density. It improves mental clarity and reduces stress. And so that was a big one for me. I actually got sick in early 2020, and I felt like my brain just, in a sense, went to mush. And I was looking for ways, because it stayed that way for a while. I was looking for ways to help get that mental clarity back. And it really was propelled forward with these patches for myself. As well, balancing hormones and easing anxiety, improves hair growth, which I know Beth touched on at the beginning, and skin appearance. And one of the things with skin appearance, and that's tied into the next one with cellular repair and wound healing, is that this copper peptide increases collagen production. Now, most of us think of collagen in association with skin and improved skin appearance, but collagen is actually the most abundant protein in the body, and it is part of our whole fascia, our extracellular matrix, meaning everything that supports all of the organs in our body. And it's actually it's a super highway for communication in the body. So we really, really need that strong fascial network. This also improves sleep quality, as Beth mentioned as well. So it's a matter of helping every single system in our body, because what it does is it supports our own healing mechanisms, which is ongoing in our own bodies. All right, next slide, please. Thank you. So the long-term results, again, repeating myself, that's the way we learn, by repetition. In the first few days, although we can't feel it, we can't see it, we don't know that it's happening, we are actually starting to reset over 4,000 genes in our genome. And just to give you a comparison, a lot of people here probably have heard about the benefits of red wine, and it's kind of all over the media, all over advertising. Red wine is great because of that specific molecule called resveratrol. Well, resveratrol actually helps reset 2 genes in our genome. So 2 genes compared to this one, it's over 4,000 genes. That's a major difference. So, imagine the hype over red wine, there should be like an exponential hype over these patches. Within 6 weeks, the brain becomes balanced. Within 3 months, there's an increase in collagen, like what I was mentioning earlier. And within 6 months, there's a heart reversal in age of up to 8 years. So that was really the big one, and why I got into this immediately with my mom. So as David Schmidt says here, it's not anti-aging, it is actually age reversing. So how do we wear this patch? So it is a disposable patch, and I think Beth might have shown it before, but I've got one here on my wrist, and it's, like she said, it's the size of a quarter loonie or toonie. For those outside of Canada, you probably don't know what a loonie or toonie is, but that's okay. It's a small size. And it's disposable. So you put it on in the morning, you take the backing off. It's like a sticker. You take the backing off, you put it on your skin. Anywhere you have skin, actually, it works because it works systemically. You wear it for 12 hours and you take it off before you go to sleep. Now, the reason you want it on during the day is because it actually improves and increases your energy production. So most people don't really want that happening at night when you're trying to sleep. So when you remove it, there's still a bit of life left in the patch. So it has about 16 to 18 hours worth, but it does the material within the patch does degrade after 36 to 48 hours. So you don't necessarily want to reuse them for any period of time. But what you can do is you can remove them and put them on your pet, which I actually wrap it around my dog's collar and put it on her, so she gets the benefit of the patch after me. Or you can put it in plants, which some people have said has made a big difference actually. And I'm going to try that as well. So the next day you put a new patch on and take it off again, and you repeat that pattern for, we can touch on this, but for as long as you want. You can wear it as long as you want, which for me is going to be continually, because I want to prevent any problems from happening, or whatever symptom you're having resolves, or for the time period where it's recommended that you wear them a month per decade you're alive to get the full activation of your stem cells. What's really important to mention here is to drink plenty of water and electrolytes. Now, where this comes in, most people understand, yes, we are made of mostly water. You'll read anywhere from 60 to 80% water, and that depends with our age and our constitution in terms of muscle and fat. But we are actually 99% water by molecular count. So with all of the molecules in our body, 99 out of every 100 are water. So that 60 to 80% that we hear sort of around us all the time has to do with weight. So we are basically kind of water bags. And this water is how the light communicates from one part of the body to the other part of the body. And it happens, yes, at the speed of light. Okay, I didn't mean to say it like that, but the light travels at the speed of light, and it uses the water network in our body to communicate. So it's actually very important that we have lots of water in the body. And drinking, it's not just about drinking water. There are other things that I'm not necessarily going to go into depth here about, but drinking water with electrolytes, because if we just drank plain water, we would just pee out most of that water. But making sure that we drink it with electrolytes allows that water to stay in our body, but also get absorbed more into the cells. And that's a really important factor when it comes to these patches and the light working. We also want to make sure that we have copper in our diet, because this patch works through copper peptide. It's important that we have copper, otherwise it's not going to work as effectively. Now, lots of people might go straight to supplements, and that is one way to do it, but I personally prefer to use foods, and our food nowadays is very depleted in copper just based on agricultural practices stemming from the early 1900s. But if we make sure to focus on high copper rich foods, such as, if you can tolerate, organ meats. I know Beth is actually really good at that. Organ meats are very rich in copper. They actually have twice the amount of copper as iron. As well, oysters, if you can eat those, if you like those. Otherwise, shellfish, avocados, nuts and seeds. So as far as nuts, cashews are highest in copper. Seeds, sunflower seeds, and probably everyone's favorite would be a little piece of dark chocolate, has enough copper requirements for the day. So what you can expect from these patches. Now, this is a really, really important one that I want to talk about. And before I kind of go through what's listed here, I want to make sure that people understand that this patch is supporting your own body's mechanism for healing. And everyone is different. And we are conditioned in our society to expect results quickly, like overnight, for example, with surgeries or pills. And I just want to stress here that it's important to have patience. And I say this because lots of people who I've shared the patches with, who said they didn't necessarily have anything wrong with them, stopped using the patches very quickly, because they were like, well, I didn't really see anything happening. And I just want to say as well that because this happens, and I know Diane can attest to this as well, when in my medical career, when I've gone to see patients, a lot of times they will say, well, I was completely fine. I had no problems until suddenly one day I got sick, or I went to see my doctor and then suddenly I was diagnosed with 10 things. So they were not completely fine up until that moment. It's just that it's kind of like the iceberg. You don't see what's going on below the surface until it peeks through the water surface. So we can actually function without any symptoms, without noticing any problems in our bodies, with up to 70% dysfunctional mitochondria in our bodies. It's only once we reach 70% dysfunctional mitochondria that we start to see symptoms. So I would just say to people that we're not going to reverse that 70, or if you're at 80% dysfunction or 90% dysfunction, it's not going to happen quickly. You have to really have patience with this. And even saying that, the recommendation of wearing these a month per decade you're alive, I would say is still very fast as far as how long it actually took us to get sick. So having said that, again, everyone is different. When we talk about what's going on with us, we have symptoms, we kind of our wish list. For example, one of mine is not having to wear prescription glasses anymore. Another one is my receding gums no longer receding, actually reversing and getting better. And so it's those kind of things, whether you've got headaches or you've got backaches, or knee issues, heart, those kind of things. And the other thing is, when we put the patches on, we may have these ideas of where we want them to start working. Like, for example, my eyes, and not wearing prescription glasses anymore. But our body has the wisdom, and our body knows exactly what priority it's going to go in terms of what needs healing. So although you may have a knee problem and you want your knee fixed, your body might say, well, no, we have to actually fix your gut. We have to fix your pancreas. We have to fix your heart, your brain before we get to that knee problem, because that's really down the line. So you might not necessarily get the changes that you want immediately, but the patch is working. It's just working on something that you're not paying attention to. As well, because healing requires energy, and we only have a certain amount of energy in our bodies, you might start to feel tired because your body's actually telling you to rest, and it's got to focus that energy on the healing. So feeling tired is absolutely very common and normal. So just making sure to get that extra sleep, as well as practicing deep breathing, because the breathing allows you to get more oxygen into your body, and the oxygen goes to the mitochondria where that extra energy and water are then produced. Next slide, please. Thank you. So as far as real results, we're gonna speak to some on the call today, but just so that you can see some visual ones, these are really kind of remarkable. And I have to say, I have to start with the one on the right with the scoliosis, where there's that curvature of the spine. This woman, you can see, it's very visible on the left. On the left, there's the curve to her spine, and on the right, she's actually, it looks almost straight to me. And that was only after 4 weeks on the X39, as well as the Icewave, which is another one of the patches that David Schmidt designed before the X39 was released in 2019. But 4 weeks, I know I was talking about having patience before. Sometimes there are lots of cases where things do happen very quickly, and this is one of them. And as well, on the left-hand side, we're going to hair. Lots of people do have issues with their hair, and you can see the gentleman, there's a baldish spot. I think it's the same person above, and on the left-hand side below, you can see that bald patch. And then you can see that there's a lot more hair growth. And then the one to the right, that is showing about gray hair reversing. So you can see the picture on the left, the gray roots at the part. And then on the right-hand side, you can see that I don't actually even see any more gray in the roots there. Next slide, please. And so here on the left-hand side, this is something called vitiligo, which is basically where the pigment is lost in the skin. And this is often associated with autoimmune conditions, but it's where you don't see any melanin, that pigment I was talking about before that we get with a tan. So the melanin is no longer in these spots, and you can see it's very marked on the left-hand side. And this woman had mentioned that she tried just about everything to get rid of the vitiligo, and nothing worked until she used the X39 patches. And you can see on the right-hand side, her skin is now more uniform and pinkish. And on the right-hand side, this is a picture of a wound, an image of a wound, a surgical incision. And that is only 2 days after the patch. Now, I know most people might not be able to kind of kind of appreciate this, but having been in a career where that's all I saw was wound healing because of surgeries, this is extremely fast wound healing. Next slide, please. And here is an image. This was a functional EEG. So you don't need to know the details of all of this, but this is basically brain mapping of this one particular woman. And at different times on the left-hand side, she was not wearing the patch. The middle one, there was 3 weeks after starting the X39 patch. And the one on the right-hand side was 6 weeks after being on the X39 patch. And basically the colors here are showing on the left-hand side, before she was wearing the patch, she had a lot of inflammation. That red color shows inflammation. And there's very little green. And the green is when you have coherence in the brain, meaning the left side and the right side are actually speaking and communicating properly. So there's not a lot of communication in the brain, and there's a lot of inflammation. So the middle one, after 3 weeks of being on the X39, there's no more inflammation in the brain being seen, and there's a little bit more coherence coming into the picture with the green and the lighter blue. And on the right-hand side, that's 6 weeks after being on the X39, she still does not have any inflammation. And again, there's more coherence happening and there's more activity. That dark blue is lower activity. And so you can see on the right-hand side, there's more activity happening and more coherence. So next slide, please.
So I think right now we're actually going to continue on with the testimonials. And I would love to start with Diane Hunt. If you could unmute and share your amazing story, that'd be great.
Yes. Okay. Hi, everybody. So I'm super excited. Everybody's tuning in. So thank you for your time, like Rachel said. So my story was, I was a cardiac critical care nurse in the OR electrophysiology for 20 years. Just seeing a lot of surgeries, a lot of pills, but not people actually getting better. It's like a quick fix, like we know a Band-Aid. So I was dealing with long haul COVID for probably, I would say 6 months. And it was scary for me because when you know what you know, like whether your beliefs around it is it's natural or a weapon or whatever, I just knew it did something to me in my heart and lungs. And so I was feeling like I don't want to go to a doctor, like Rachel said, like that's the last thing. I do everything in my power to avoid going. And I'm into all the natural healing remedies that's known to me at the moment. But nothing was helping. And so in my inbox, after many months of prayers, please bring me something that can help me heal without having to go to the doctors. I knew something was going on with my lungs, but also affecting my heart because I was having palpitations too. So in my inbox one day, this patch came into my inbox, and I was so surprised that it was a 20-year company because I've never heard of it. And I saw a few things that sparked my interest. It helps with inflammation. So I knew there was inflammation going on with my lungs and my heart. It helps with pain. I had an aging dad in his 80s who had sciatic pain, gout, plantar fasciitis, lived every day in pain. And then also it reverses your heart by 8 years just by wearing it 6 months. And so for me, being a cardiac nurse, I was like, how is that even possible? So I was like, I'm in. So even though I was, and maybe not as much as Rachel is, into frequency and energy and light and all that stuff, I had an awareness about it. I was very interested. So I got the patches. I put them on me. I put them on my dad, my husband, my whole family, not even knowing what I was going to expect. I just hoped it was going to heal my heart and my lungs. Within 24 hours, so keep it in mind, not everybody has a one patch wonder, but for me, within 24 hours, my heart and lungs were completely, I won't say healed, but I never had another palpitation. And people would think I was running when I was walking my dogs. And I could, now I could join Orange Theory. I never got short of breath anymore. So I knew something drastically just happened within those 24 hours. And not only that, but over now the course of a year and a half, when I say the miracles still happen, like for me, I had dry eye, floaters, And, you know, and one of the slides was about like feeling old. I'm 49. I should not be having all these things going on. I was also I am a big snowboarder. So even just going upstairs, my knees would talk to me. That's no longer. I used to get like those white hairs in my eyebrows, if anybody has that. No longer do I see grays in my hair. Like literally, I could go 6 months and maybe I'll catch one or two, but like that's very rare for me. So when I say endless miracles, never have I seen miracles in the nursing profession. Here, it's like I call it my magic inbox, where people are saying their child is now able to walk in the halls of school where he always had to wear braces on his legs. Kids not needing glasses where they were pretty much, you know, as soon as they could talk, they were with glasses. And now after like the age of 9, they no longer need glasses anymore. Adults, gums growing back. My dad, who used to live with a boot, a cane, like I said, he had plantar fasciitis, gout, sciatic pain. He's now working out at the gym 6 days a week. He plays racquetball with me. He's like a new man. So yes, it's miracles for sure. And so I just want everybody to experience their miracle. I always say for less than $3.50, like even if you just wear it to be proactive, and I know a lot of us are very health conscious, to me, you're worth $3.50 a day. You can't even get a coffee, which isn't good for your health anyway, or water, bottled water. So keep that in mind. And yes, to great health and good luck, fortune. Thank you, ladies, for letting me share.
Thank you, Diane, so much. And thank you for your consistency, because it actually took Diane 8 reach outs over the course of 3 months to get my attention on this. So I appreciate you being dedicated to that, because it is changing lives and changing, you know, people's lives in my life. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, and if I could just mention also consistency with my dad. It took him 4 months to have his results. Like, but could you imagine if he gave up at month 2, where he was like, I'm not really feeling anything? At 4 months, there was like magic where he literally just felt like a new man. There were other things going on, like this ongoing rash on his skin forever that was like screaming angry on his skin, so painful for him. But also like an eye that the tear duct, it wouldn't drain. So he's constantly like having to wipe his eye. So yeah, I could go on forever, but I'm going to hand over the mic to you guys. But yeah, stay the course.
Thanks, Diane. Lynn, would you like to unmute and share your testimony?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm super grateful. My friend Jay, who's also on the call, she reached out to me about maybe almost 3 months ago now. And she kept saying, you got to take a look at this video that Rachel and Beth are going to do. And I hopped on the Instagram presentation that you did. And I have to say, you had me at infrared because I had already purchased for my husband an infrared sauna blanket and infrared light. And we had an infrared mask. And so they're all in my room. And one of the biggest issues with those is trying to find the time to use them. So when you said infrared and that you're just using your own light to reflect, I thought, well, this sounds really easy. And so I really understood what this patch could do. And I was super excited to get going. I wasn't sure what results I would get, but definitely the sleep was something that caught my attention. And so that was actually one of the first things I noticed. So I started using them about mid-July. It took only a couple days, and the biggest change was my sleep. I wasn't sleeping really well for the last few years, just dealing with different family issues. I won't get into the details, but I do have a child with special needs. And so there's a lot of stress involved with handling that, and teenage kids. And yeah, so I just wasn't sleeping really well. And I was at a point too where I was really trying to focus on what I was eating and losing back some of the weight I had regained. And I felt like I was just at a plateau. So being able to sleep was huge. I noticed in the first few nights I was having such deep sleep that I was having these crazy vivid dreams that I remembered when I woke up. I was getting into deep sleep. I was feeling less stressed. I've noticed that my mood is way better. I've actually had friends comment on how I just seem happier lately. So that was really fun to see other people noticing a change. And I've already lost about 9 pounds now in the last month. So yeah, I'm just seeing a lot of positive changes. I am putting them on my kids too, but I don't want to share any of those things yet because I can't say for certain what they're feeling. But I will say that my son was at the dentist yesterday, and for the first time in a very long time, we managed to get through 15 minutes of cleaning his teeth, and he just laid there and let him clean his teeth. And I don't know if it's a patch or not, but we're going to keep trying and see what happens. But I'm loving what I'm seeing, and I just feel so great. So thank you for sharing this.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Lynn, for sharing. And maybe I will turn it over before we go back to the presentation. Rachel, did you want to give an update on your mom and what she has experienced?
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Lynn, and I think Diane left already. Yeah, thank you for sharing. So with my mom, I had mentioned earlier that she had a whole host of issues, and I knew that it was going to take time with the patches just based on how it worked. So I wasn't expecting anything quickly, but I walk with my mom on a regular basis, almost daily. And because of her heart failure, she is very short of breath and has to stop and pause. So walking with my dog that sniffs everything is kind of the pace that we go at. And I noticed within 2 weeks, she was actually walking significantly faster and talking to me while she was walking, which takes more energy. And I actually had to stop her to point that out to her. So that first of all was quite remarkable. And then 3 weeks after being on the patches, she came to my house with some lab work because she was being monitored because of her heart failure. And she asked me to look at some blood work because some numbers were off. And now we all know in medicine, you should never be a family's physician or caregiver. So I told her to go to her doctor, but told her what I saw was that he was probably going to lower her thyroid medication, which is what he has done. And he's actually done that a second time. So she's still on it, but they're going slow. And so that's another point to mention if you are on medication to still, go to your family or whatever healthcare provider to make sure that you monitor your medications because you will likely be getting off of them. My mom has much more energy. She does go through periods of fatigue, and I think that is actually the healing that's happening. I have noticed that she has started to lose some weight, which she has had trouble with for decades. And she's not doing anything differently. Her friends have also noticed an increase in her overall vitality and energy, to the point where when she visited one of her friend's husband was like, "What are you doing? I want it." Whatever it is, he didn't even want to know anything about it. He's just like, "Get me started." And incidentally, this gentleman, who's 85, he's only, after 8 weeks, I think 8, 9 weeks of being on the patches. It's not why he started on the patches, but he actually does not need his reading glasses anymore. So that's, again, I would say that's pretty quick, just over 2 months to no longer need reading glasses. But I started sharing, I'm not going to go into too many other testimonials because I have so many with people that I shared with, because again, I didn't want to necessarily wait till I had these major changes to share, because so many people are having so many issues. And there's really, in my opinion, from what I've seen in the regular system, in the alternative systems and other modalities, there's really no harm at all in trying this technology to see how it can work for you. And so one of my friends who has had sciatica for 5 years with, pain that is relentless and never goes away, regardless of the medication she takes, within 3 hours, feeling no pain. And a couple that I shared with, who again had an older couple, the gentleman had a whole host of medical issues, 3 types of cancer, being on chemo, fractured knee, a nerve pain problem. His heart started to go after the chemotherapy. And anyways, after I asked if they wanted to hear about something alternative, they were very open to it. They started on the patches. The pain in his knee went away immediately. That was where he had the fracture. And 9 days after, because I see them on my walks every day, 9 days after I stopped them, the pain that he had from this nerve syndrome that he couldn't even brush his teeth with because it got triggered and it was so painful was gone. So that was 9 days after the patches. And then his wife, she wasn't sleeping because she was looking after him and concerned about him. And I gave her one of the patches that had to do with the sleep. And the first night she slept 7 hours straight, which she said she had not done in years. And so there's just, I've got so many stories like this of sharing from the beginning. But again, I want to continue on as well, get to the questions that you all may have.
Awesome. Great. Thank you, Rachel. So I'm going to share the screen again. All right. And Rachel, you can give us a little overview about David Schmidt and the company.
Okay, so yeah, David Schmidt is actually half the reason I am so supportive of this company. He's the heart behind the company, and he really doesn't even take credit for any of his inventions. He gives credit to God, and they are downloads, and he is just the messenger. And that's the kind of humility that he has. And as Diane mentioned as well, she didn't even know that this company was 20 years old. So the company this year is 20 years old. And so David Schmidt didn't start out thinking he was going to market something to the public. He actually started out with contracts with the government and the Department of Defense to create inventions to help with emergency medical equipment for the Department of Defense. And he created, I think, some emergency oxygen tank that they didn't think was going to work. And when it did, then they contracted him for some other things. He went on this mini submission for the Navy SEALs, and he designed the first patch from this company called the Energy Enhancer. And that was so that the Navy SEALs could stay awake and be alert for their missions, where they'd be up for 30 hours at a time without having to rely on things like caffeine and any other substances that were addictive and can cause harm. And so that was the start of the patches. And then I think it was 9/11, anything that didn't have to do with the arms race, the government didn't want any involvement in. So he then, through his networking, which is how he chose to market this through network marketing, because all of the networking that he had done led him to connect with the 4-time Olympian swim coach at Stanford and trialing these patches on the women's swim team, to the point where in one of the Olympics, and I believe it was 2008, the women's swim team they were beating their own records, but they were kind of beating everyone else as well, to the point where the anti-doping team was called in to check to see if they were using something illicit, and then checking the patches, and they couldn't find anything. So they just had to let them continue. But that was how well the patches were working. And then he decided, because he wanted to change direction, and actually spent 10 years going into the longevity industry and to create what came of this X39 patch. Was released in 2019, and that has taken the company from grossing 20 million a year to now on track for over 600 million. And that was really with the release of the X39. And so this company is in over 80 countries in the world. And yeah, he's got a lot more inventions. I'm actually going to the 20th anniversary convention in the middle of October, and he is releasing several new products that you guys I will reveal once I get back from that. And so for those of you who like to do your own research, which I would encourage everybody to do, not take anyone's word for anything, go do your own research, unlike what is being told to us in the public. But there is a 22-page patent on this X39 patch. And really, it boils down to that one sentence that is in quotations here. And it embodies, as a result of elevating copper peptide, including activation of stem cells, energy improvements, and elevation of antioxidants. Now, this patent can be found along with all of the case studies. There are over 80 studies that have been done on these patches, as well as testimonies on this website listed here, the one, if you can see on the screen, thisisitinfo.com. So all you have to do is type that in, go to that website, and you can find the patent there, the studies, as well as testimonials and some more information on them.
So thank you, Rachel. And so everyone, it's important to remember that the benefits of the company, of the patch, go far beyond the surface. So yes, fewer wrinkles, more energy, less brain fog are wonderful, but think about the bigger picture. What if you could reduce the pain, the inflammation so significantly that you no longer struggle with that chronic pain? Maybe it means returning to a job that you had to quit because of the pain you were in. Perhaps it's being able to enjoy activities with your spouse, your kids, your grandkids that you have missed out on. Maybe it's achieving financial freedom, as this company is the #1 momentum company in the industry. So just by simply sharing with others, this can allow you to live a life with more ease, whether it's paying for your patches, covering an extra bill, or treating yourself to a well-deserved vacation. This is all possible with the power of the patch. So let me share with you how you can start. So Lifewave does offer 3 simple enrollment options that you can choose the best path that suits you. These prices are in US dollars and for a month's worth of patches. So there's 30 patches in what we call a sleeve. It's like an envelope with 30 patches in it. So first you can enroll as a retail customer where you simply place your order, pay the retail price, no strings attached. However, if you'd like to benefit from the wholesale pricing, who wouldn't, you have 2 additional options. You can sign up as a preferred customer or as a brand partner. So as a brand partner, not only do you unlock the wholesale pricing, but you also secure a spot on the team and can leverage the incredible momentum that this company is experiencing without additional cost. There is no additional investment to do so. So there are several enrollment kits available to set you up for success, tailored to meet your goals. What we often see is that people begin to experience the success with the products and they naturally share them with others and they end up building a business, and sometimes even on a full-time basis. And so on this note, just a quick reminder to reach out to the person that invited you to the call, because they'll be able to guide you through the ordering process and help you ensure that you're getting the best price available. So I do want to thank you for your time today. I want to open it up to questions. So you can feel free to, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If there are questions in the chat, we can get to them. But if you would like to put up your hand, unmute, we'd love to be able to field some questions. I don't know if there's anything, has anyone, Rachel, have you noticed, or Jay, in the comments at all, any questions that you've seen?
There was one, someone had to leave, Nicole, and she just asked, she was wondering how she could get her 12-year-old to wear it, though no specific issues. And as well, is it good for bacterial toxins, infections, and so on. So I can speak to, not that I don't have a 12-year-old, but I've got 17 and 19-year-olds, so I can share that. And I know, again, because of the story having to do with the Olympic athletes, and there are, even in these past Olympics that just passed, there were Olympic athletes that were wearing them. There are professional sports players who are wearing them. So that was a huge incentive for my kids, my son in particular, he's a 19-year-old, and, you know, wanting to build muscle and power and stamina and strength. And then it also increases recovery time, like the speed of the recovery time. So that was a big one for my son, as well as skin issues, because all younger, the younger generation have skin issues and they're concerned about what their skin looks like. And my daughter, that was the biggest one, was the skin component, but as well, she dances. So to have more energy and recovery time from dancing was a big one. So I don't know if there's anyone else on here who has kids that they've tried.
So Lynn makes a really good point that her 11-year-old puts it in his pocket. I think that's important to note, that you don't necessarily have to stick the adhesive directly on your skin, that it does activate through your body heat. And so if people have issues either with the medical grade tape, maybe they're allergic to it, or they're not wanting to necessarily stick it on their body, they can put it, in their undergarments, stick it in their pocket, and it activates. So just like how Rachel was talking about how she patches her dog and puts it on the collar, it still activates because, Rachel, I don't know if you want to go into the specifics in terms of the infrared light, but it still activates. It doesn't necessarily have to be touching your skin. And that's the power of the infrared light, infrared heat.
Yeah. And just kind of one point on that, Beth, is that the different frequencies of light penetrate to different depths, and infrared light actually penetrates. And it depends on what you read, because I have read different things, anywhere from 10 to 30 centimeters into the body. So that's why infrared, at least infrared A, it's divided into different ones, but the near infrared, infrared A targets the mitochondria. And so it can get into all of the mitochondria in the body because of the depth of penetration. So that's why it doesn't have to be specifically on the skin, because it can get to the skin.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. Anyone else have any other questions? So Jay, and I'll just read Jay's comment. So her kid is 30, found during a 5-day bout of feeling under the weather. He put on a patch and called me the next day, walking to the grocery store, saying he had no other explanation for his body aches going away than the patch. Yeah, pretty amazing. Thanks, Jay.
Yeah, and I think maybe just that other question there, what Nicole had asked about whether it's good for like infections. I mean, Jay just gave an example there, but what I would say to that is anything you can do to enhance your body's health, and specifically your mitochondrial energy production and water production is going to be able to help fend off any extra, any toxins and infections and that kind of thing, by the mere fact that, because your body actually is doing that naturally. It's just that we are so depleted by much of the environment that we live in and are surrounded by that it becomes a problem. But if you support what your body's naturally designed to do, then it will benefit every aspect of it. So, Lynn, you have a question?
Yeah, I was just reading Dr. Killian's question, or she was just asking what I've noticed with the kids. So I can't say for certain exactly what yet. I have noticed, even my husband's been wearing it. Now he says he hasn't noticed a change, but personally, I've noticed his mood has improved. My youngest, I did mention the dentist appointment. So he seems a little bit calmer. And I know you mentioned that it helps with anxiety. So I'm just going to keep watching because they've only been on it for a month. I started it a month before they did. So I'm just curious to see longer term, what kind of other things I notice. But right now I'm kind of just on the observation field. And my 11-year-old, I did mention, he puts in his pocket because he does complain about the tape, like he scratches at himself. So I said, you know what, just stick it in your pocket. I just want him wearing it. My 14-year-old, we won't talk about him. He's just being a teenager. And my 17-year-old, still waiting to see, but she does deal with a lot of anxiety. So I'm hoping to see some mood changes with her, and she seems to be doing better. So I don't know. I'm just going to keep observing, and maybe on a future call I'll have more to share.
That's awesome. Thank you, Lynn. So there's a question about weight loss and even maybe pairing other patches that might work best. And so, I know that people have experienced some weight loss. It's also because I think they're gaining some energy and they're able to, maybe they're cutting out the patch, maybe cutting out the cravings, but also reducing inflammation. They have more energy. So they're getting to the gym, they're eating, they have this vitality about them. Also losing inflammation. I don't know if I mentioned that, but would anyone want to speak about, I know Diane's not here. Rachel, did you want to talk about weight loss, or have you experienced any? I mean, I have. I mean, certain people that I have shared it with, but I don't know if it's necessarily because they have more energy and they're able to go to the gym and do all the things that they want to do without kind of struggling in the evening, you know, getting home and kind of crashing on the couch. They actually have more energy to get through the day, in doing everything that they want to do.
Yeah, well, you touched on several things, right? Like, because the patch helps with increasing organ function, right? Balancing, reducing inflammation, balancing, like improving thyroid function, and those things are all tied into your metabolism. But the other thing that I can just add as well is, I know David Schmidt has spoken about sort of the science, and without getting too detailed, what he started with the energy enhancer, it also ties into the other ones because they are reflecting that light and targeting the mitochondria as well. What it does is it increases what's called beta oxidation, which actually is increasing your use of fat. And with the use of fat in the mitochondria, you actually produce 4 times the amount of energy. So there is kind of that mitochondrial function and increasing energy, and the fat, basically lipolysis, the use of fat. So it does target it from that standpoint as well. I know that there is that other pairing with the SP6, which full disclosure, I'm hoping that at the conference I can ask someone there to give me more of a scientific understanding of how that SP6 actually works in terms of balancing organs and weight loss, because I have not really understood where that comes from with the SP6. I don't know if that was helpful, if it was clear.
I think it was great, Rachel. Anyone else have, so there's a couple of different comments coming up, but I would encourage you to, I'll open up the floor again if you have any specific questions that you can ask live. Irlene, yeah. Do you want to unmute yourself?
Yeah, sort of bother you. I
No,
was
that's okay.
wondering, Rachel and Beth, if you could tell me, when I first tried to take the electrolytes, my ankles and my legs started to swell. And I got told by someone else that maybe my body has enough salt in it already, and that's why I don't need the electrolytes. Like, will it still work without me taking the electrolytes? I eat a lot of, I like salty foods, right?
So what do you mean by taking electrolytes? Like, were you adding salt, extra salt to your water, or did you specifically go out and buy electrolytes?
Yes.
Powders?
And it wasn't powder, it was drops.
Okay, I don't know. I would have to know more detail, but I mean, it could be if there were other things in the drops, like often if you're going to purchase electrolytes in a supplement department, then there's usually other things that are also in the electrolytes.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons that me personally, I prefer to use something like the Redmond's Real Salt or Himalayan sea salt or Celtic sea salt, because then you're just getting the minerals. You're not getting potentially other chemicals that can cause problems.
I love you so much because that's all I use is the sea salt, like the Celtic salt. So thank you. I love you so much for telling me that.
You're welcome.
And something additional you don't have to purchase, right? Like, I think me too, like I was going through the stage where I thought I needed to have a powdered electrolyte in addition to the good quality sea salt I was already using, but it's got all the trace minerals and the electrolytes in that good quality sea salt already. So yeah, something else we don't have to purchase.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Irlene.
Joan, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm back to the electrolytes. Do you like once or twice a day taking the salt, or is it something you're supposed to have throughout the day? I'm reading where bananas are full of electrolytes. Are you supposed to do it throughout the day, like, or is once or twice enough?
So usually, like, throughout the day is better, because our body is, our organs are functioning, and we can kind of flush out what we don't need. And then if we're not replenishing, then it can kind of cause imbalances. But I think, were you the one that wrote about, yeah, you said bananas. So I would, it's hard to, electrolytes are there's lots of information out that you can read that can be confusing. And we need electrolytes. We need minerals basically in our body, right, to hold the water. And so it's important to make sure that you've got a balanced amount of electrolytes. Now, food is kind of different because it really depends on the quality of the food you're eating, where you're getting the food from, whether it's got pesticides on it. Like there's a whole bunch of variables that you can't control for with food. So that's why I think in the water, when you're drinking the water, you're sipping it throughout the day, you're kind of replenishing yourself while your body's eliminating what it doesn't need on an ongoing basis.
So we eat a lot of lettuce and vegetables from our tower garden, and the minerals in that water are top notch. Would that be adequate?
So this kind of would get me going down a completely different path here.
Okay,
which I think might be too, yeah, not kind of appropriate for this setting, having to do with food. But I honestly, I don't know, because I don't know what it is that you're
okay.
taking.
Thank you.
Sorry, I can't. I like to be comprehensive in my answers, and I need to know kind of more details when it comes to that. So
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you.
All right, I don't see any other hands up, but don't hesitate to unmute if you have any other questions. Okay, thanks, Lynn. Tamara, okay, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so just in comment to the electrolytes, what I do is I create a bottle of what's called Soleil. So it's Celtic sea salt in water. And I just take a teaspoon of that in my glass of water every time I have a glass of water. And I find it works amazing. I walk a lot in the summer because I'm a golfer, and in the 40-degree temperatures, it doesn't bother me in the slightest. So that's probably a good way to get a little bit of the salt in there without having to take like grains of salt each time. So Joan, just something for you to maybe consider on that front. And then my other question, and hopefully it's not an inappropriate question, but I've been trying to convince some of my family with about the patches and giving them a try. And one of the hurdles that I've come up with my sister is that she's heard about other patches. And I'm just curious what kind of an argument we can use to kind of counter some of those, if maybe you guys have encountered some of that. I won't name the specific patch that she's been introduced to already, but I've tried looking at some of the documentation and the science and things like that behind it, just to come up with some of my own arguments. But obviously, having read over the philosophy of the company and whatnot, we're not out to try and make somebody else's product look bad. So I'm just curious if you guys have encountered that from anybody else from a comment standpoint.
Yeah, it's definitely come up. And I haven't kind of dug in too much to the other types of patches, but I have now an awareness that there are other patches out there that have, worked for people, and they do different things. So I think what's important to distinguish with this compared to others out there is that first of all, it's patented technology. And it's proprietary. No one else has it. There's a 20-year patent on it. And, it's the only product, let alone patch, in the world that reactivates your own dormant stem cells with the increase of copper peptide GHKCU. So yes. The other patches don't do that. However, there could be other benefits of it, but from my limited understanding, I don't see it being as comprehensive in terms of what this patch has to offer, which really, this X39 phototherapy patch can help everyone with everything all the time. Like that's a lingo we hear often in this company, because the testimonials are just so diverse in terms of, and even the case studies and the research behind it, that it just helps to support your body heal and repair where it needs to heal and repair. And so it supports the body to do that, which I feel it's a, you know, it's just this amazing invention. So, but I cannot speak to the other patches.
Yeah.
But I would kind of stick to what you know, right, with regards to the patches, and you know, point them to, I don't know if they're into research and that kind of thing, but the This Is It team, or the This Is It info.com is a great resource for them to watch videos, look at the case studies, the testimonials. I don't know, Rachel or anyone
Yeah.
else would like to add anything?
I agree with what you said there, Beth. So that's
Okay, great. Yeah.
good reinforcement.
Yes. Perfect.
I would just say the other thing, I mean, just on top of what you said about GHKCU, is that it resets over 4,000 genes in the genome, right? That's not something that's done by other patches.
And how many are there in the genome? It's like 20,000 or something, Rachel, I think I've heard.
It depends what you read, anywhere from 18 to 26,000 I've read. So it's around.
Yeah.
So pretty substantial for sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, Elizabeth. Would you like to ask a question, or oh, maybe she was just leaving. Okay.
No, actually, I would like to ask a question.
Oh, yes, go ahead. Sure. Oh, you can unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Sorry.
Does it work now? It's
Yes.
really
Yes.
not working. Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering how often you have to wear these patches. I mean, like in terms of like half a year, ongoing, years, or only a certain amount of months, or all the time. You know what I mean?
So that depends on what you want to get out of the patches. So for myself personally, I'm wearing them as a preventative measure to prevent symptoms and decline and aging. If you, like, it really it depends on what you want. So if you've got a specific issue that you want resolved, you wear them until that issue is resolved, or you can wear them. The recommendation is at least a month per decade you're alive, to activate get the full activation of the stem cells. Yeah, really, once you stop wearing them, it's not like when you stop a pill, like if you're put on a medication, you know, if you're given a medication by a doctor and you like high blood pressure medication, and you stop it, and then your high blood pressure is going to come back because you need that medication to keep your blood pressure low. When you stop these patches, the healing that's been done is still there. You're not going to suddenly go back to the problems that you had before the patches. Your body's doing the healing. So you'll then just start the aging, the aging decline again, you know, from that point onwards. So it's really what you want to get out of it. And I just would say, in this day and age, again, to reiterate, personally, I don't ever want to have to access the old system again if I don't have to. That's where I'm coming from.
Okay. And I was also wondering how often can you reactivate stem cells? Are they like only being activated up to a certain amount of time? And are they always good cells? Like in terms of cancer cells, for example, can they be activated?
So do you mean is the patch activating cancer cells? Oh, we can't hear.
Elizabeth, are you there?
Yeah, sorry, again, it doesn't work properly. So everybody has cells, and in these cells are some certain information. So what if there are some certain cancer cells? Can they be activated?
So if I'm understanding you correctly, so first of all, the stem cells are the cells that go to the different parts of the body to replace, you know, you have the repair and replacing old and damaged cells. So you're continually, you know, this patch is activating the GHKCU, which is increasing the number of stem cells as well as the activity. Now, the GHKCU that is increased, that resets the genome, is increasing and activating anti-cancer genes and reducing the ones that promote cancer. So they're going to reduce cancer activity from both increasing the anti-cancer activity and reducing the cancer promoting activity. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I'm just my problem is I'm very anxious. I'm very curious, anxious, and I really like to know things before I use them. And I'm always thinking of many things, maybe too many things. And this is just what came up to my mind because, yeah, everybody of us is carrying cancer cells as well. So I was just wondering if they might be able to be activated as well. So that was my thought.
Yeah, no, I just want to make sure that my answer was clear, but more to cancer activation would be lifestyle. So that's actually something that we didn't kind of touch on, that I like to emphasize with people here, is that the patches are not a replacement for a healthy lifestyle. And that's really what we want to get people to, is living a healthy lifestyle. This will help get some people who are stuck maybe going in that direction. But that would be more promoting cancer than something like this, right? Your lifestyle factors would determine that.
All right, if there's no more questions, I would like to thank you all for joining the call today and being open to learning. And if you have more questions, if you are interested in, using these patches, please reach out to the person that invited you on the call, and they can walk you through the different packages, the different process. So again, I thank you so much for joining the call today. Hope you have a wonderful afternoon.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you being here.